where we break down the biggest stories in global economics and trade. Today, we're tackling a fascinating development that's brewing between the United States and Japan in the automotive world. The question on everyone's mind is this: will imports of American cars into Japan see a significant increase? It all stems from concerns raised by President Donald Trump, which have prompted Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism to consider relaxing their notoriously strict certification regulations. And with that, some are hoping for lower sales prices on U.S. vehicles in the Japanese market. Let's unpack this step by step, analyzing the background, the current situation, and what the future might hold. First off, to understand why this is happening, we need to look at the broader context of U.S.-Japan trade relations under Trump. You see, Trump has long been vocal about what he perceives as unfair trade practices, particularly in the auto sector. He argues that while Japanese cars flood the American market with relatively few barriers, the reverse isn't true. American cars face a tough time entering Japan due to rigorous safety and certification standards that make the process expensive and time-consuming. Back in his first term, Trump threatened hefty tariffs on Japanese imports to the U.S., and now, in 2025, with his return to office, those threats are resurfacing. Reports from sources like Reuters and Nikkei Asia indicate that Trump is pushing for a more balanced trade, potentially slapping tariffs as high as 25% on Japanese vehicles unless concessions are made. This isn't just rhetoric, it's a strategic move to boost American exports and protect domestic manufacturing. Japan, naturally, wants to avoid these tariffs, which could devastate their auto giants like Toyota and Honda, who rely heavily on the U.S. market. So, as a bargaining chip, Tokyo is putting their own import regulations on the table. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, or MLIT for short, oversees vehicle certifications in Japan. Currently, importing a car into Japan involves a battery of tests: crash safety evaluations, emissions checks, noise level assessments, and even specifics like right-hand drive configurations, since Japan drives on the left. For American cars, which are often left-hand drive and built to U.S. standards, this means extensive modifications or retesting, driving up costs and making them less competitive. Nikkei Asia reported earlier this year that Japan is considering easing some of these rules, perhaps allowing U.S. cars to skip certain certification tests if they meet equivalent American standards. This echoes agreements from past talks, like those in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, where similar relaxations were discussed but never fully implemented. Now, why does this matter? Well, if these regulations are relaxed, it could open the floodgates for more American cars to enter Japan. Think about iconic U.S. models from Ford, GM, or even Tesla, vehicles that have struggled to gain a foothold in Japan due to these barriers. A report from the New York Times highlighted Trump's point that it's nearly impossible for American companies to sell cars in Japan because of these non-tariff barriers. If MLIT follows through, we might see streamlined approvals, mutual recognition of safety standards between the U.S. and Japan, and fewer mandatory modifications. This isn't unprecedented. The EU has similar mutual recognition deals with other countries, and Japan could model something akin to that. But let's dig deeper into the potential impacts. On the import side, yes, we could see an increase in American car shipments to Japan. Japanese consumers have traditionally preferred domestic brands for their reliability and fuel efficiency, but there's a niche market for American muscle cars, SUVs, and electric vehicles. With relaxed rules, import volumes might rise, especially if Japanese automakers themselves start reverse importing their U.S.-built models. NHK sources revealed that Toyota is planning to inform the U.S. of intentions to import American-made models back to Japan as a way to balance trade figures and appease Trump. This clever move could help offset the trade deficit without hurting Japanese production lines. And then there's the hope for lower sales prices. Currently, the high cost of certification and modifications inflates the price of imported U.S. cars in Japan, often making them luxury items. If regulations are eased, those costs drop, potentially leading to more competitive pricing. Imagine a Ford Mustang or a Chevrolet Silverado becoming more affordable for the average Japanese buyer. Analysts from Autoblog suggest this could stimulate demand in urban areas where larger vehicles are gaining popularity. But there's not all smooth sailing. Critics worry that relaxing safety standards might compromise road safety. Japan has some of the world's strictest crash test requirements, and diluting them for trade reasons could raise eyebrows among consumer advocacy groups. As Polis Network noted in relation to similar EU discussions, vehicle safety shouldn't be sacrificed for economic gains. Shifting gears to the economic ramifications, this could be a win-win in theory. For the U.S., it means more exports, job preservation in the auto industry, and a reduction in the trade deficit with Japan, which Trump obsesses over. Figures from the U.S. Department of Commerce show that while Japan exports billions in cars to America, U.S. exports to Japan are a fraction of that. Relaxed rules could help bridge that gap. For Japan, avoiding tariffs protects their massive U.S. sales. Think of the hit to earnings at 15 to 25% tariffs kick in. But there's a flip side. Increased competition from U.S. imports might pressure domestic manufacturers, though given Japan's dominance, it's unlikely to be disruptive. Moreover, this could set a precedent for other countries. If Japan bends on regulations, the EU or others might follow suit in their own trade talks with Trump, reshaping global auto trade. Of course, nothing is set in stone yet. These are considerations and negotiations, as per reports from April and October 2025. MLIT hasn't made official announcements, but the buzz is building. Trump's team is reportedly open to the idea, seeing it as a concession that doesn't require direct U.S. subsidies. We should watch for upcoming bilateral talks, perhaps at summits like APEC or G7, where auto trade will likely feature prominently. Wrapping this up, the prospect of increased American car imports to Japan hinges on these regulatory relaxations driven by Trump's trade pressures. It could indeed lead to more U.S. vehicles on Japanese roads and possibly lower prices, benefiting consumers and easing tensions. But it also highlights the delicate balance between safety, economics, and politics in international trade. What do you think? Will this spark a boom in U.S. car sales abroad, or is it just another chapter in the ongoing trade saga? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this analysis, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and hit that bell icon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.